The recent tragedy in Barrow County schools has caused everyone to ask, are we doing enough to keep our kids safe when they're in school? A one-on-one, in-depth conversation with Cobb Superintendent is in this episode of The Inside Scoop. Hello and welcome back to The Inside Scoop. I'm David Owen. It was every parent's nightmare in Barrow County that day in September when a gunman murdered 4 innocent people. In the aftermath, we have to ask our leaders that critical question. What about here, in Cobb? Are we doing enough? Superintendent Chris Ragsdale sat down with Felicia Wagner, Executive Director of the Cobb Schools Foundation, who is also the mother of a Cobb student, to discuss this critical topic. The full interview is lengthy, so we'll cover the first half in this episode and the second half next week. Now, here's Felicia.
Hi, I'm Felicia Wagner. I'm the Executive Director for the Cobb Schools Foundation, but today I am going to be interviewing Chris Ragsdale, the Superintendent for Cobb County School District, as a concerned parent. There have been a lot of concerns about safety in the schools, and I am very privileged to be able to interview Chris today. So thank you for being a part of this today.
Absolutely.
And being a part of this very important topic that comes up all the time.
It does indeed, yes.
So let's start out with big picture. I think at the last board meeting, you guys said that you spend $35 million. I don't remember if it was a year, over a certain year, over things that are going into our schools to protect students and staff. Can you tell us a little bit more, like broad picture, how those dollars are spent? Is that enough? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so first, obviously, the Barrow County shooting, that tragedy has really become forefront of everyone's mind. It's unfortunately, as the case is, during my remarks in each board meeting, I usually start out with condolences. We have a lot of employees, a lot of students, and unfortunately, we need to recognize those who pass away. And that being said, it's just it's really unfathomable that you can have this experience in a school where people lose their life because of a shooting. And in Barrow, obviously, we had 2 staff members and 2 students who lost their life. And it's real easy to kind of detach yourself the further away you are from the event. To say, well, it could have been so much worse. And I guess technically that's true, but for those 4 families, it could not be any worse. So I think it's very important for us to realize if there is a single life loss, it's just not acceptable to have that type of situation that we have to deal with in schools today. Unfortunately, though, that is the world in which we live. So we have to make sure that we are prepared as best we can be. You mentioned the $35 million. For the past 10 years, we have spent approximately $35 million per year on safety. Is that enough? Is it ever enough? I don't think you can put a price tag on safety, especially when you're talking about a child's safety, a staff member's safety. I don't think you can put a price tag on that. So we will continue to invest in safety. Whatever that is going to be. I know that today we're talking as before the board meeting, but I will be bringing a presentation regarding safety and where we're heading next in Cobb County School District at the October board meeting. So I don't foresee any changes as far as investing in safety. We will continue to do so, and I don't have any anticipation that expenditure will ever go down. It is our top priority, student and staff safety. So I think everyone needs to understand that first and foremost, because it's not just words. It's your worst nightmare as a parent. As a parent myself, I'm very conscientious about what parents are feeling. When something like this happens close to home, it makes it all the more real. because literally an hour up the road is where this event took place. So it is a tragedy, but it's also something that we have to prepare for. And part of that $35 million, some of it is in products, some of it is in people, and some of it is just simply preparedness. So I can't say enough about our police officers that we have in the school district, the professionalism that they bring each and every day. As a parent, I think there's not a parent in the world that wouldn't, take a bullet for your child. But our resource officers, our police officers, we're asking them to take a bullet for somebody else's child or somebody else's wife or brother or mother or son. So we ask a lot of police officers and first responders, and that doesn't change for hours. Just because they're school district police officers, they are post-certified, they're fully trained, they're well trained, they're well equipped to take care of our students and staff each and every day, and they do an awesome job of that.
And I think they have over 20 years experience, most of them that end up coming into the schools, right? Right,
exactly. And we also have 3 K-9 units as well. So the experience that they bring, it's very important, but it's also important to realize there is a difference to having police officers in schools and police officers for Cobb PD or the Cobb Sheriff's Office, etc. It is a different environment, and you have to train accordingly to make sure that they are prepared to deal with whatever problems they encounter, whether it be during a school day, at extracurricular events, sporting events, and those kind of things. They have to be prepared to take on whatever is presented to them to be an issue.
Are they still coordinated with local police and law enforcement, like multi-agency coordination? Because I know they come from there, but then they kind of have their own jurisdiction here in the school district. So are they still?
Yeah, absolutely. They collaborate 24/7, 365. Matter of fact, not just with local PD, but we have liaisons with the Joint Terrorism Task Force, FBI, GBI. So there's a lot of collaboration that takes place, and especially following an incident like we had in Barrow. There's a lot of collaboration, and unfortunately a lot of events that domino after an event like that. It's very unfortunate that we have to deal with those kinds of situations, but we do. There is a litany of things that we do. We have a crisis management system, Centegix, that allows each badged employee to issue a code red in a school. And the key component of that is it saves time, and saving time saves lives. So it's in a situation like that. So it's very important that we have that ability, and it's very important that we do code red drills. We do fire drills. Yet it's been over 60 years since someone has perished in a school fire, but yet we still do fire drills. So that is truly my hope, is that we're going to be doing these code red drills because now legislation requires it, number one. But we were already doing code red drills before the legislation, and we actually do more than is required by the legislation. So I'm hoping that it becomes just like a fire drill. It becomes muscle memory, that this is a drill that we're doing to make sure we're prepared.
Okay, about code red drills. It creates a lot of anxiety in staff and students, but it seems really important for the coordination piece that is vital in, God forbid, a real code red drill. So can you kind of explain who gets the report card from a code red drill? What are we doing? Because back when I was in school, to your point, to we did fire drills, the teacher would be like, oh, we made it out in 3.5 minutes. We need to try to get to 3. So what are we trying to get out of a code red drill, and how is that going to be important should something ever happen?
Yeah, so obviously the intent of a code red drill is to prepare for that event, so that when the code red is issued, everyone knows what to do. So kind of the report card, as you put it, whether it be our police officers, we have an assistant superintendent now, Josh Moriel. over safety and security for our schools. They come together to kind of do a debrief with the principal and admin team at the school to show, okay, where you did really well, where there may be areas of improvement. That is done after each Code Red drill with the admin team, and the admin team is able to share that with the staff in his or her school. So again, it's a continual improvement process. And I think what speaks really to that training process, if you will, or the drill, is when you see kids after a Code Red has taken place. And many of the kids will say, well, I just thought it was another drill, but then I realized it was for real, but they were still doing what they were trained to do in the drill. So that always pays dividends. The more you train, the better you get. The old adage of practice makes perfect is not true. Perfect practice makes perfect. So it's important for us to drill and continue to drill so that everyone is prepared. God forbid that an event takes place. We know that everybody knows what to do, where to go, and how to act to make sure that everyone's as safe as possible.
Okay. So in April 1999, I became a mom for the first time, and I had a perfect baby girl, and all the fingers and all the toes, and everything was perfect. And I think the day that we got home from the hospital was the day that Columbine happened. And I thought, what have I done? And by the end of the day, I knew that school was never going to be the same as it was on April 19th.
Right.
And you knew that safety was going to become probably more important than teaching and learning. And you certainly weren't concerned about teaching and learning on April 20th. So what can we do, I guess, as a community? What do you think as a leader? How are we addressing safety as our number one priority? And given the context of school shootings and violence in schools, like, it's scary as a parent. It's terrifying as a parent.
Absolutely, it truly is, and I get that. I totally understand that. And there's a lot of things that come into play. Just as you mentioned, Columbine changed the way we do school forever. That was the day, if you will, not to diminish World War II, but Columbine was a day that will also live in infamy. Everyone in a public school knows what happened on that day in Columbine, and it changed the way that we have school. Up until then, nobody really thought about, safety when you sent your child to school. You really did not think about that. When I talk to high school classes, I always tell them about, when I went to high school in Paulding County, there were plenty of four-wheel drive trucks in the parking lot and these kind of things. And in the back glass of each one of those trucks was a deer rifle or a shotgun or what have you. And literally today, the students' mouths just hit the floor. But then I immediately follow that with, but how many school shootings did we have? Not a single one. And obviously, something changed over the course of time. Obviously we don't allow firearms on school campuses any longer. And that's not to say that, at that point in time, there were not fights between individuals. But regardless of the fights taking place, nobody ever thought, well, I'm just going to go get my gun and finish this, Just that was not in anybody's mind at that point in time. What changed? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that there is a single thing that we can point to between then and now of what happened. So, however, something did change, and now we are in the current environment in which we live. And it's unfortunate, but we have to make sure that we are as prepared as we possibly can be. And, as a parent, what we want to do is make sure our parents are comfortable when they bring or send their child to a Cobb County School District school, that we do in fact take student and staff safety as our top priority. That they feel that when they're sending them to the Cobb County School District school, they're safe for the day. Again, going back to the budgeting, there will never be enough money to be able to do everything that you want to do. So you have to prioritize. And I think one of the things now, and I made mention of this in my remarks at the last board meeting, we want to become left of lunch. And that's a concept meaning that we want to be, before an event happens, we want to be doing things to address whatever can lead up to that event. We want to take care of it before it becomes an event. And I think that there's a lot of things that we can do in order to accomplish that. And it truly is a one-team effort. It's going to take the entire team to accomplish that, but I believe that we are positioned well to be able to do that. That's not to take away or diminish anything that we're doing currently. We're not changing anything that we're doing. But I think there's a lot of things that we can do proactively to help prevent events. And so I do want our parents of all of our students, we're the second largest district in the state, I want them to feel confident that we do take the safety of their students as our top priority. And we will always take that as a top priority. When we talk about threats, that's one of the things, unfortunately, that stems from an event, regardless of where it happens. After Parkland happened, same thing happened. You have students who unfortunately decide to create disruptions by reposting a threat or by posting a new threat that, oh my gosh, I heard that there's going to be a shooting at X school tomorrow. And some of these students think that it's just a prank, to cause a disruption. It's never taken as a prank. We always go to the full extent of investigating these threats. And once the originator of the threat is determined, there are legal implications to that as far as criminal charges, as well as school discipline. We take those very seriously. And we never consider a threat to be false until it's been fully investigated. Once we can come to that conclusion, then obviously we let everyone know through our communication channels that it has been determined to be a false threat.
So society never ceases to surprise me and scare me at the same time. And so I learned not only in Cobb County School District, but across the nation and Georgia, those threats, I don't know the percentage that they increased after the Barrow County shooting.
Significantly.
And I heard from some of our principals that they're, helping with the investigations, and some are unfounded. I think most of them were across the nation.
Sure.
What is a student gonna do if they don't know if something is true or not? And I'll give you an example. I had a daughter in high school, and there was somebody making some sort of threat of a weapon at school. She came home on the bus. Parents started texting me, what's going on? And I'm like, I have no idea. So my daughter's like, well, I didn't know if it was true, so I didn't tell anybody. Okay, well, good on you for wanting to tell the truth.
Right.
But what is a parent, because I see the wildfire in social media for perpetuation of threats. But what is a student going to do in school if they don't know if something is true or not? And it might just be the kid that's always saying crazy stuff.
Yeah.
What should they do?
Yeah, so first I will do the PSA on social media, because that's kind of I'll chase that rabbit for a minute. The majority of information on social media is not true. It's certainly not wholly true. And I think that's one of the issues that we face today, is so many, not just kids, but so many adults as well, get their information from social media, and it's just simply not true. And then they spread that information, just like you said, it perpetuates itself through social media like a wildfire. And you know, that was also different going back to the Columbine example. Yep. Social media didn't exist, right? So when I first started in education, the internet didn't exist, for crying out loud. So literally, what we have today is just a network that communication, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent, can spread to millions of people literally within seconds. So when you think about information that is not true spreading to millions of people within seconds, that makes a bad situation infinitely worse, especially when we're talking about threats that we are. So to your very question, what should a parent or child do? We actually have a tip line in Cobb County School District, the Vector tip line, to where you can make an anonymous tip via email, text, or phone. And I will say, if a student becomes aware of any type of threat, whether or not they think it's true or false or indifferent, tell an adult. We have resource, especially at middle and high school, we have resource officers, multiple resource officers in some schools. And that happens more times than not. A lot of kids go to the resource officer because they feel comfortable talking to that person and report whatever it is that they have heard or they think they have heard or what have you. That's the best first step. The worst first step is to tell a friend, hey, I heard this, and then it spreads because, again, that becomes that perpetuation of false information, perhaps. And yes, you're right. The large majority of the threats have been investigated and determined to be false. All of the threats that we have investigated in Cobb have turned out to be false. Now, I know that in some other areas they have actually stopped things from happening through, various threats that were real. Yeah. So that being said, it is comforting to know that the professional law enforcement agencies and personnel are investigating and doing their due diligence to make sure that these threats are not perpetuated and not acted upon, but also that the people responsible for making the threats are punished. It is not taken lightly ever, and parents need to explain to their students, regardless of how good your student is, make sure they're aware of the punishment that can come from making a threat or propagating a threat. Because again, and I get it, that kids want to protect their friends and make sure that they know. First thing, make sure an adult knows, because then we can address the threat head on and determine if it's false or true or what actions need to be taken.
And I think in the Vector alert tip app, you can post things anonymously, or you can send it anonymously if you feel like you need to.
Absolutely.
That information goes to whom?
It starts with our law enforcement.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. The police officers in the school district, and then they involve any other agencies as need be. We actually have night shift officers who work threats through the night, and will make contact to investigate those threats. So we don't wait until the next day to start. It's an immediate process. So as soon as they receive those tips, they take immediate action.
So that's just the first half of this discussion. Next week, the second half of their discussion will include topics like how to stay accurately informed, protocol confidentiality, and safety technologies, so make sure you tune in. Be sure you subscribe to be alerted when that episode is released. Thanks for listening to this edition of The Inside Scoop, a podcast produced by the Cobb County School District.